Good evening, everyone. It is October 20th. Welcome to the Abington Finance Committee meeting for tonight, this month, whatever we want to say. We have a pretty decent agenda in front of us tonight. We will be going over liaison assignments. We will get a status of where the current fiscal year budget and revenue and things are. We will go over the tentative early timeline for the process of doing next year's budget. We'll get an update on free cash. We'll check on liaison reports, correspondence, review minutes from past meetings, and then we'll figure out when we're meeting next. So we're going to jump right in. We do have two guests with us tonight. We have our town manager, Scott Landiasi, and we have our treasurer collector and now financial director of our town, Sonia Hodge. Very happy to have you with us, Sonia.
Thank you.
And we can just kind of jump right in. I'm actually going to shuffle the order to do liaison assignments after we get Scott and Sonia their stuff and let them go through their things. So. Do we want to jump right into the status of the fiscal year 22 budget
Sure.
and revenue?
Everyone should have a printout.
So Katie, who is with us remotely, unfortunately does not have a printout. We apologize.
I can email this to you, Katie. The top couple pages are the revenue, and then the last couple pages are the expenditure accounts. And this is just a summary to give you an idea. You can see it's listed out several different accounts for the revenue. When I printed this out, I noticed that the revenue budgets have not been entered, but I'm looking in to figure out when that typically is done. I would think by now it should be done. So we'll get those entered as well so that this report makes more sense when you're looking at it. But if you look at page 3 of 3, you can see on the very bottom that to date we've taken in 14.7 million. There's a little bit in September, about $500,000 that hasn't been posted yet. There's a typical lag of getting all the books closed for the month. But in general, things are looking pretty good. And when you annualize it out, we're taking in what we expect to take in. Nothing is seriously lagging.
So that's the part we were mentioning, is that the budget part wasn't there to see where we should be?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, so the overall budget amount for the year would normally show on here. So I'll make sure that that gets entered by the time we meet again.
We appreciate this. This is good to have.
Mm-hmm. And then on the expenditure side, I sorted this simply by department just to keep it short. Of course, if you would like more detail on any specific department, I'm happy to provide it, but I figured for this meeting that wouldn't be necessary. On page 2 of 2 at the very bottom, you can see that, and these are mainly just the general fund accounts. This does not include your enterprise accounts like water and sewer or CPA or anything like that. But for a $60 million budget, we have remaining $43 million. Which is right in line with where we would expect to be, being only a quarter of the way through the year. So really, all in all, just looking at it at a high level, we're right in line with where we should be. Our new town accountant, Andrew, also took a look at the accounts, and he didn't see anything that stood out to him as a concern either.
Excellent.
So in this case, the allocated is what we expected to spend for the year?
Allocated is what's been approved at town meeting to spend.
Yeah,
Right.
so yeah, and then the debits and credits, and then the ending is what we have left?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. So good question. What is the credits column?
So the credits would be refunds or credit, credit on a statement. If it's netted against a bill, it would go in that column. Yeah, typically it's a refund.
Can you run an expenditure report without payroll in there? So just
Sure, I could.
non-payroll,
Mm-hmm.
see where we are budget to actual?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because overall, what is the
Payroll is a
percent?
little more fixed, so.
Yeah, Because overall, it's the salary and benefits, what do they take up of the budget? Excluding the $26 million for the schools.
A good portion. But it really depends on the department. You know, your fire and your police are gonna be pretty heavy in personnel, whereas DPW is gonna be a lot higher in other costs as well.
Right, but if you get a $60 million budget and 26, 27 is going to the schools,
Mhm.
what's left, how much of that is salary and benefits, and then everything else is just expenses?
I could tell you when I run the report, I
Okay.
don't know offhand.
Okay,
Mhm.
thanks.
And so the bottom of page 33, that's revenue to date right now?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
In our certain months within the fiscal year, like weighted more heavily, do they account for more percentage of the revenue? Is it pretty evenly distributed?
Yes, on a quarterly basis, it should be pretty even.
Okay.
But your big ones that are gonna be in flux are gonna be the real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle taxes, because they're due at certain times during the year. But real estate and personal property is the biggest share, and those come quarterly. So looking at it on a quarterly basis will make more sense. Getting these reports more frequently, sometimes it's not gonna quite be that way.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So am I looking at it wrong where the revenue is almost 15 million, but our expenses are a little over 17 million?
You're not looking at it wrong.
Is that,
Yeah.
is that normally how it goes?
That's cyclical, yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean,
Gotcha.
like I said, we're looking like we're in good shape. I don't see any reason to be concerned. So I don't have an exact answer for you.
Yeah, but is that just normal? You know, you'll have your revenue come in a little bit later than your expenses?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Alright.
And again, there's some revenue that still hasn't posted. It's still not quite to the 17 million, but yes, there is still some out there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's my first time seeing this format, so just make sure
I played around
I'm
with it
reading
to
it
try to
correctly.
figure out what a good format would be, because there's so many different reports and none of them, the names don't make sense on them, so. These seem the most concise.
I think this is good.
No, it looks good.
The retirement account, the
Mhm.
9910, that
Yep.
$3.1 million. What's the story behind that? Because that,
That's an annual assessment, and we pay it on July 1st of every fiscal year.
okay.
Mhm. So actually, good
Where-
point, that probably is contributing to
Oh,
the
where was
difference
that
in
Oh, gotcha.
17 and
On
14.
page 202, code 9110,
Okay.
retirement.
That's almost exactly what the
Yep.
difference is,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
So how does that work where it's an assessment, like if do they kind of, I don't know what the right term is, but reconcile that at the end and say, oh, you
We-
paid too much or not enough?
With a kind of, yes. We do actuarial evaluations every couple of years. And they take a look at all of our benefits, all of our benefit eligible employees,
Mhm.
how long they've been with the town, when they're gonna retire. I mean, it's all, it looks at years of service, age, demographics, to see what our cost is for
Mhm.
our retarees when they retire. And so then they look at the whole county as a whole, and then they
Mhm.
split out the cost
Oh,
based
gotcha.
on our payroll. So
Mhm.
the higher our payroll goes, the higher
The
our
bigger your
assessment
pieces,
is.
yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And who do we use for an actuary?
Odyssey,
And is it every 2 or 3 years?
every 2.
2 years,
Mhm.
okay.
Yep, we just finished the valuation this fall.
So it looks like liability insurance is a little bit similar. It's not fully paid, but it's close to fully paid.
You maybe know that one better than I do.
The
liability insurance.
Upfront premium,
Yeah, probably.
yeah.
And then just things I'm noticing, recreation department, looks like it's 100,000 over. I'm wondering if that's just a breakdown within the DPW that was off, maybe? Or it's page 2 of 2, it's.
I can take a look at it.
6,300, about middle.
Yeah, I'll take a look. I didn't include every fund because
Yep.
it would,
It'd be way too long.
it would be way too long. So it could be something that's posted to the wrong account, or it could be something that I didn't include a fund that would have more budget attached to it.
Yep.
Would the liability insurance include cyber insurance?
We do have, I think we have actually been having a lot of conversations about the cyber insurance and how it works. So I think we do have a minimal protection on it, and we've been working with them to figure out, is it enough? What does it cover? What else do we have to do? We have recommendations on other things that we could put into place. Talking with IT, with Wayne about it, the concerns with the insurance was mostly, depending on what happened, it was more to come and pay to help you fix a problem. It wasn't to sort of like pay out or assistant payout, at least the way he explained it to me. But yeah, it is one of the things, I think did the auditors pick that out also? It said, you really have to work on that, so it's kind of been one of the things that we're looking at.
And I just know from personal experience, they run you through the ringer now to try to get cyber insurance. You have to have a law in place.
One of the big things that Wayne had pointed out was, I want to say it's called like the two-step verification or something like that, if somebody wanted to log in or somebody wants to get into our site, getting them in there isn't that easy. In the thing that we talked about, that the biggest threat that we have is not really from within our own sites. He's got a lot of protections and a lot of backup for our emails and things like that. It's when people open other emails. They open their Gmail, or to try and monitor that and police, it's very difficult. He could do it. It would make it really difficult for everybody. But that's kind of where, we have to try and figure out how to make and balance those protections.
Do we have any security awareness training? Like we're October's Security Awareness Month. So do we have any training for, to that very point of like people going, are they allowed to go into Facebook on the agency?
It's a good point, because most ransomware, most phishing, most problems like that come from somebody on the network clicking a link that they shouldn't have clicked because they got sent an email. So the more that we can make people aware of issues,
and
the less likely things are to happen.
Kind of working on like a whole batch of policies, and that's one of them. And in the sort of renewing everything, we're working with council on it. Wayne actually had sent a policy over to me to review that was sent into council to go in that kind of reflects stuff like that. But you're right. I mean, I think, we've started initiating some employee training stuff on other things. That's probably a good one to throw in there. Like customer service is one of the ones that we're doing, management 101 type of things, things like that. But yeah, I mean, that's actually probably a really good one to add in there for everybody.
Because the human is the weakest link.
It is.
Well,
It really is.
and we're going to, and I don't know if you've seen the invite yet, but there's going to be a board and committee training coming up in November that we're going to run through some of the policies, and that's probably a good time there also to sort of mention it to everybody, that, like you said, we are the weakest link, right?
Yeah. And it is certainly a very hot issue, and it's unfortunately very, very common. And I work in health IT, and there's lots of hospitals getting hit with ransomware issues these days.
And to that point, are we doing daily backups?
Oh, I've asked Wayne about his backup
Wayne is
system.
on his
He
backup
does have
system.
he has a pretty robust system for how he backs everything up. And that he's confident that we wouldn't lose anything, that if there was some sort of a data breach, but, never say never, right? But yeah, he is very mindful of that.
It has nothing to do with finance, but is the backup on the same network?
That would be a Wayne question. I would think not, but.
Gotcha. We learned the hard way on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because
It was a while ago, but
It
yeah.
should be off-site.
Yeah, it's just,
Like it should be doing a daily backup, and then it should be off-site someplace.
Yeah, I'll check with Wayne.
Yep. Other questions for Sonia on the ledger?
So just is the plan to see if you can get the budget added and then send it
Yes.
out. I appreciate it, thank you.
Yep.
We definitely appreciate this. We've been asking for a
Yeah.
while, Scott's
Yeah.
been getting things ready to get to us, so.
No problem.
We appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.
Drew, anything?
No,
Just checking.
thank you.
Russ? You're good? All right. Free cash?
Yes, let me just make a note to
Yep.
get this
No.
sent to Katie as well. I will forget.
Can I just ask one more question on this
Yeah.
expenditure?
Greg, your time.
Time's up. Did the highway snow removal thing change?
No, that's.
I don't
It's always
know.
been 100?
I noticed that one. It's always 100,000. That's the one place that we can definitely spend.
Yeah,
Yeah, but isn't it usually like 200 or 300 grand?
yes.
It was-
Yeah, it's always over
The
100.
actual amount is always over 100.
Yeah, yeah.
but
No, I
if
just didn't know if
ever-
we
like,
allotted for it.
Anytime we up the amount that we budget for, we can't lower it.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I said that a couple of years ago,
So
and
we
maybe that's
always
what I'm
bud-
thinking of.
We always budget
Yeah.
for 100,000.
Yeah, I got it.
We know that it'll go over. We
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
look to use free cash and other funds
Yep.
to do that. And we are allowed to go 3 years.
Same,
with it,
same
and
thing in
it's-
every town, they ask it
Yep.
every year.
Yep.
I don't know why I thought it was
If we could predict
more.
what it was gonna cost,
Roll the dice.
so.
Just-
Knocking on wood, hopefully it'll be a,
Can I ask one more question?
yes.
So-
You're not Greg, you can ask as many as you want.
I only get 2 a day.
Yeah. Any question, I'll ask. So information technology, that would include salary, and then is that any, so this is everything, information technology for the town of Abington?
Yeah, so this is the information
Well-
technology department, so it's Wayne's office, his salary, and anything that he needs to purchase, server, computer,
The
anything related to
school's
that.
IT department is separate.
Yes.
Yes,
right.
they have
But
their
for
own.
the rest
Mhm.
of the town, yes.
Yes.
But, so, I guess I'm just looking at this number, do we think $286,000, including salary, is enough for an organization this size? It just seems a little on the low side in this day and age.
I can't answer that question directly. I can talk to Wayne and get more information.
Well, I mean, we will
And
have
then
Wayne
Wayne
here.
will be here.
Yeah.
Okay.
When-
In the winter.
When Wayne comes in to discuss next year's budget, that's definitely something we can really dive into.
Right.
with
Well,
him if you want.
I just asked because it's like to wait.
I've asked the same questions when we've had him in, and he has been very comfortable with the budget that he's had the last few years.
Well, it's, if we spend our money properly, I get that, but it's like, if you look at that with salary, do we have all the protections in place that we have? Like, if we don't have cyber insurance in place, is that an issue if we have an event? Do we have the right protections with people logging in? Like, even the security awareness, it's like, that seems like a low number for an organization. I'm using the town as an organization this size. $286,000. Do we have the right protections in place? And I even hate bringing this up in this setting, but I don't, it's a public meeting, I don't have any
Yeah.
other choice, because people
Right.
listen to this stuff, and it's like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, they'd love to hit a town or a municipality to shut them down, because it's just fun for them.
Jumping to the liaison section,
Yeah.
I'm gonna write down Paul under the IT.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Because I think that's a very good conversation to
Yeah.
have with Wayne. I've
Okay.
talked with him somewhat about stuff over the last few years, and he's been comfortable with where he is, but like you were saying, the kind of the environment out there is changing.
Just in the
Scott
last-
mentioned
just since town meeting,
multi-factor
yeah.
authentication, that's a big thing that needs to be like moved forward with townwide, and then there's just so much more risk these
Right,
days.
there is,
so.
right. Thank you.
Good questions.
Anything else? Greg?
Good.
Russ, you good? I'm good. All right. So free cash.
Free cash.
That
So,
was a good interlude, let you get caught up.
so our new town accountant just started on the 12th, so he's been here a little over a week now. He came in and we were able to submit almost all of our tax rate submissions to the state. We're just waiting on the assessors to have their certification hearing with the Board of Selectmen on November 8th. And once that's complete, then we can submit the last document, and then we can get our tax rate approved. That said, that was kind of the priority when he came in, to get those documents set up. Luckily, Sue had almost everything entered when she left, so it made it a lot easier for him to jump in. He could review everything, make sure he agreed with the numbers, and then we could submit them that way. Now that that's completed, free cash is the next item on his plate, and he has already started on those schedules that he has to submit to the state as well, and that's a pretty involved process. The nice thing about Andrew, one of the nice things, there are a lot of nice things about Andrew, he is a very, it's very good with the data and the programming behind the scenes. So our finance system has the capability to program it so that it can produce these reports fairly automatically. And it has been set up that way, but I think after showing him what he needs to do very manually this year, once he gets it under his belt and he gets a good feel for the town and our numbers, he will go ahead and take care of the programming part to have that automated to make it a much quicker process in future years. So we're excited to have that. That said, it is a very manual process, and he will be doing it manually this year. So he's working on it, and it does take a couple months to get everything in. I know the state also prefers us not to focus on free cash so much right now, simply so that they can focus on the tax rate certifications.
Any questions?
Hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have some preliminary figures of what we're thinking that number will look like. But as of now, I don't have that for you.
Okay. All right. Timeline for putting together the budget for next year, because it's past July, so we're starting to look for next year.
Yeah, I know, why wouldn't we, right? So going by the book, which we want to do this year, our goal is to have annual town meeting on April 4th, which is what they call for in the bylaws. So it also calls for a budget to be presented to the Board of Selectmen 30 days prior to presenting a budget to the Finance Committee, and the budget to the Finance Committee before the 15th of January. So, our goals, and I think we have to get it to you sooner than that, obviously, because we've got a, pretty good timeline there, but we want to stay on it for a couple of reasons. I mean, I just think it'd be nice to have it done on time for the sake of that's, efficient, but if in fact that we end up with a number for the fire station building, that's also going to be a ballot, and it'd be preferable to have the ballot after town meeting discussion, as opposed to in the past where they've had the elections 2 weeks before. We would end up having to have another special election. So we want to try and follow that timeline. So that's where we're at right now. I think Sonia has schedules for next month, right? We're meeting with all the department heads. We got a couple of dates, so they've all been given their final warning to get their numbers in, and I'm sure they'll all comply. So that's where we're at. We're going to start those meetings, and I think we'll have some rough draft to you, end of the year, beginning of, sometime in December. Okay.
So for those who recall previous town meetings, April 4th is a little earlier than we've been meeting lately. Scott and I have talked about it a little bit, and I think it's good to try and get it on the earlier side. We're just going to have to move our schedule up to make sure that we get all of our meetings in beforehand. But we always, like in past years when we were setting the schedule, we always went with this is town meeting, work back on the schedule from there. So I know we'll work on department head meeting schedules. We'll probably have to start that, I guess, right at the beginning of January.
Yeah, and I think at some point, I think Sonia and I will be doing our first pass with the department heads, but maybe, at some point, a second pass with the liaison prior to them
Yeah.
coming in here. I don't know if that's how you've done it in the past, or if
We haven't always, but
it might be, or at least for certain departments. I don't know that we, necessarily want to do it with all departments, but certainly with the larger departments and the bigger budgets, I think it might be, or in the case where you have some good questions, I'd like to hear some of the answers too. So I'd like to be present for some of it.
yep, definitely.
Where are we at with have we spent any money for the fire station planning stuff? Whatever that $3 million was.
So we recently, maybe 2 weeks ago, I hired the OPM. So we're really just beginning that process now. That the OPM will get out to this Glenowitz Way site. They'll do some wetland flagging, soil borings, make sure that there's actually a way to have a secondary means of egress out onto their street. And if all of that checks out, then we'll go forward with the plans. That's when we'll start spending money. So the architect will start working with the committee to narrow down that broad schematic, pretty picture to something that actually works, makes sense, that, it's reasonable, but it's going to be difficult with the, current construction environment, so that's where that, so no, we haven't spent it yet, but we're starting. We're on that point now that we'll start spending it.
Do we think that April is a reasonable?
It's going to be tough. It'll be, to be quite honest with you, I don't know that we'll get it in time for annual town meeting. It's more likely that we would have a special in the fall. We'd like to be able to, but I think at this point, in giving the environment out there, the construction environment and everything else, it's probably not even a bad thing to just get everything figured out, design, take our time, and then deal with it in a fall town meeting. And there's always something else to deal with. If you have a fall town meeting, I'm sure we'll have.
There definitely is.
Yeah, right.
We haven't had that many, but we can always put something in there.
Somebody always said that it's like standing up a Christmas tree, somebody's gonna hang something on it.
So what would be a hindrance to not getting it done by April 4th?
It is just in schematic phase right now, so having, the plans for a building that magnitude, by the time you're done, you're literally a 3x4 set of plans this thick.
That would hold up the whole town budget because of that?
No, just the vote for,
on the fire station.
yeah, just the vote for the fire station.
Okay.
As an
Yeah.
override.
Okay. all right.
So we'd still have annual town meeting on the 4th.
Okay.
But that won't be an article, that's the only
Yeah,
thing.
that could
So
get
that
moved to
was-
the fall.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And we definitely want to have the time to present the information to the town in the proper manner. So.
Yeah, especially in
Don't wanna
something of
rush
this
it.
magnitude, yeah.
So,
We want to make sure that everybody's got a good chance to digest it, the need for it, and, the ultimate design is the best possible design that we could come up with, the most efficient use of space and money. So,
Wasn't that how the school was handled? That was handled separately, too,
Yeah.
right?
Did they do it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
yeah, it was a separate town meeting specifically for that, so. It was not a fall town meeting, I'm trying to remember exactly what it was one. I don't remember exactly what it was. But it was not in conjunction with.
Yeah, it was in the high
town
school,
meeting.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they brought everybody into the old.
Into the old building with no air conditioning and said, on a warm day? Good plan.
Jeez.
We'll do it at the fire station.
That would be effective.
Yeah, the one on Rockland, that's probably the better one, right? Pull up pile into that rec room.
All right, anyone have questions on where we're at with the timeline? We can definitely work together on
Yes,
the
I have a
schedule
note
for
to
the
the-
departments
yep.
and stuff.
I know it's not particular to this timeline, but Scott, you had mentioned earlier about the auditors and one of their findings or recommendations. What is the status of the annual audit?
The auditors have already been out for their final field work. There are a few outstanding items that we're continuing to prepare for them. And then once we get all of that to them, they'll wrap up their magic. They're usually also waiting for some figures from the county to include in the report. So usually sometime in the winter we get the final report.
And who do we use for that?
Powers and Sullivan.
And how many years have we used them?
You know, I don't know.
All right.
As
Yeah.
long as you've been here.
As long as I've been here.
As long as I've been here. Doesn't really count.
I've been here 6 years,
All right.
so it's at least been that long.
Do we have a procurement policy on that, where we have to turn over firms?
I don't think that we have a policy saying that we would want to turn over, at least, not that I'm aware of a policy that says we would turn over firms, but
Do we have to go to bid for that?
I don't, how much do we spend on them?
Probably more than, well, I don't know if it's over the
I'm not
threshold
sure
or
how,
not.
I'm not sure how they, how we contracted with them. I
Mhm.
didn't deal with it, but I'll look at it. I'll look at what our contract was with them, and they're probably, I'm guessing, exempt from 30B because of what they do, but that doesn't mean that we wouldn't look at it.
And have we gotten any management letters from them in the past couple of years?
They do a management letter every year. Typically, the recommendations that they have in there are pretty benign. Nothing that would stand out as a material weakness. Certainly,
Okay.
we haven't had anything like that.
I can grab you
Okay.
some copies if you want. I have them right in my
Well-
desk. I mean, you can take them.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I
the
just
big one
curious,
from
yeah.
last year
Yeah.
was to do a full cyber security audit. That was the big recommendation that they're giving to just about every town because we're not alone in being, we're a
Right.
smaller community. So that was the big recommendation last year, but nothing that was of concern.
Okay.
Can we post
Other
it
than that.
online too?
The audit?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we should do
I have that on my very long list.
that. Well, I mean, give it to Tony to deal with.
Mhm. Could have a finance page or something that's.
Yeah, the new website, well, we really like the new website, when it's ready. Could be a little button for the finances. We'll have some, some pie charts with the revenue and the spending on it, so, people can do a quick at a glance and just get an idea of what's going on. We'll have the budgets in there so people can access that and take a look at least the big picture of it anyways. And going into town meeting, we'll have more detail on it, so. But we'll
It
probably
will-
put a button up especially for town meeting too.
It will be
That
nice.
Sounds good.
Yeah, a lot of that information is hard to find right now.
Yeah,
It'll
it
be
is,
very
but
nice.
we're gonna make it
Yep.
real easy.
Mhm.
Nice.
It, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be there, so.
Nice.
Excellent. Actually, looking at my notes, I had two, talking about some of that, led to two of the kind of follow-up questions that I had meant to ask when we were going over the current fiscal year budget. So let me back us up for a second. Where are we at with the Central Street Bridge?
So the state is reviewing it now. I talked to John, he said the state does take a while to review it. I think he said he had a meeting next week, and once it comes back from the state, and they approve the plans, and then they're all set to go out to bid. They'll get it out to bid, and we're hoping for the spring. Again, it's tough. If we can get it out to bid sooner, we can get a commitment. I know that he's been working with Gioso, who's doing Route 18, he's been doing the sewer force main. He's already expressed interest as being a bidder, so that's good that, we know that there's going to be interest in it. But it is, it's bridge work, so they'll have to be probably DCAM and MassDOT certified to do the work. I think that obviously Gioso is. I don't know, how many other companies are out there. Sure, Landers or whoever else will probably throw a number in on it, but we're hoping for the spring.
And then the other one was the military leave.
Yeah, so we've been having conversations with the police department, with the officers on it. They've got, and we've actually made it, we're currently going through bargaining for a 3-year contract. We're going to put something in there to that effect in the contract, but I also told them that I would talk to this board, and that this board and other boards had their, had interest in actually putting it through a town meeting too. So it seems that there's only maybe one employee over in at fire who would be, benefit from this. I haven't heard back from the school. I'm gonna talk with them I'm gonna meet with them on Friday morning. We'll kind of check with them and get a gauge from them. I don't think that we'll see a big impact on that budget. And we're just running, we're working on running those numbers. But I think overall, we can speak to it better this year. I think we should support it, but I think we have to just kind of really just dig into it a little bit more. Right now, with the new chief in there, looking at, and the fact that we're down, and probably close to 10 officers at this point, 9 or 10, trying to get ready and geared up to fill that, and at the same time, work out a 3-year contract that also brings these guys to a point where they're on par, at least, and hopefully closer to a benchmark as opposed to being the one that's screwing up the curve for everybody else. That's going to be tough, so that's really where our focus is on that right now. But we do want to work this into it. And we'll either do both, and then if it passes a town meeting, which I'm sure it will, it won't matter. But if there's a problem with getting it through a town meeting, at least it'll also be in their contract. So we got a long ways to go on that, but we did. Again, we started the negotiations on that early, and we'll actually be working with fire pretty soon too. Fire's coming up. We did a 1-year MOU with most of them just to get through last year.
You say we're down 9 officers? We have 9 openings? Didn't we have 2 or 4?
We had probably, I think we had 2 that were just vacants.
Yep.
We had several transfers. We had another transfer as early as yesterday, and one a month ago.
I just asked him the question, this is what he
No,
said tonight.
So 5 vacant patrolman positions. There's one leaving shortly, which is the one I just found about. And then there's one not expected to return, and then there's 2 sergeant positions. So
do we get people from other places?
no.
So why do we say yes to it?
Why do we say yes to
To the
them?
transfers?
We don't. You don't always have a choice.
You don't?
No. So one was going to Pembroke. It's not a civil service town, or they might go take the civil service test and be on the top of a list in another town, and they can just go. Yeah.
So people that are in the civil service don't have to stick to a place that goes to civil service, but we can only hire from civil service.
Correct.
We gotta get out of this thing as soon as possible.
Well, and that's
It's
something
just-
that's always something that it's another thing for discussion, and we bring it up with them, and I'll bring it up during this negotiation, and we'll see what they feel, how they feel about it, how town meeting feels about it. It is a system that it just doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to work for us.
Well, couldn't you have like a hybrid, saying that our policy will be to try to focus on?
You're either in or you're out.
Yeah.
You'd have to draft your own exams, right, for hiring and do your own.
Which, and there are other towns that have done that, that have, and I think that's sort of if we're ever gonna do it, that all has to be in place, where we have our policies, our hiring policies, our promotional policies, preference policies, everything that civil service gives them that protection for, we would have to say, all right, this is how we're gonna do it, run in line with that. But right now, I think they're gonna they're going to try doing the testing on a yearly basis. Up until this year, it's every 2 years there's a test. And then by the time the test scores, and then you get a list, when you call for a list, you get X amount of people to hire from. If they don't all vet out, then you ask for another list. You have to wait for that other list to come in, and then you have to vet that group of people. So it's a long process. It hasn't really served us well. I didn't think it served us well in other communities that I've been in, but it's the one that, it's the system we have now, and I'm on several MMA boards that we bang our heads against the wall. We talk to the legislature about it, and we talk to the governor's office about it, and we talk to Civil Service Commission about it, and we ask for reform and changes, and They have finally seemed to try to be working that way.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but
We have that.
it's slow.
Yeah.
We've been asking for years. So that was Greg's question, then he left.
Yes.
But is the civil service really the problem, or is it just it's a management issue? I mean, it seems like we're talking about civil service, but it seems like there's been a management issue, like if people are leaving.
Well,
And that's why we have.
So I think.
backfilling
I think
is
there's
the
definitely
civil
been-
service issue.
There's definitely been issues on both
Right.
fronts. We've had issues with civil service in trying to get people into the spots that have been opened. The spots that have been opened and continued to become open were more the management issue.
Okay.
The recruitment part, the civil service, retaining the perceived management issue, I'll put it that way.
Okay.
Which I think, we're actually addressing that.
And we're
In
what,
a, yeah.
one week in?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
the new chief, so I think we
Yeah.
can.
I think we're going in a very
Hopeful that
positive
that will move
direction.
in the
No,
right
exactly,
direction.
exactly. Yeah, so hopefully everything will kind of,
Fall into place, yeah.
Right.
It's-
Yep. Other questions? Technically, we're still on next year's timeline,
Yeah, I know.
or my reverting back to the.
Civil service isn't just for police, right? It's for fire, right? It's the only
Fire's-
place you
fire's
can
also
get these
civil
people
service.
from,
Yeah.
which, I don't know, I think pigeonholes this, and it kind of makes us compete, especially with towns with more money, that they can come here and
Well,
learn and then leave.
I mean, we could spend all night talking.
Yeah, yeah.
But
And we have-
there's a lot of, a lot of issues with it.
Yeah, I know you like Greg.
Well, I spent 20 minutes answering you, but you left.
I know, I'm sorry. I drink so much water.
You can do the playback later.
I heard you guys. You can,
Okay.
the walls are so thin.
All right. I think with that, we are ready to move on to liaison assignments.
Well, let me just give you a
Scott,
quick,
got
before you're
something
done
else
with
for
us.
All right.
Just to
We're
give you an
never,
idea.
we're never really done, to be fair.
So the next thing next time we meet, Sonia and I had discussed this earlier, we'll get a report together for you where we're at with our ARPA money, our American Recovery Plan Act money.
Actually,
So-
I did, that was on my list of things to ask about. and I-
So we have,
Missed that note.
money that was directly received by the town, which was at this point $800 and something thousand. As you recall, I came to this group, the capital group, and to the Selectmen and discussed using some of it for capital, for some cruisers that we didn't, that we needed to buy, a bucket truck, a used bucket truck that we're still having a hard time finding, but we're working on it. And a couple other smaller purchases. So we'll give you a breakdown on where we're at with that. We do have another payment coming after the first of the year sometime, another 800 and something thousand. So those sort of things that's gonna be on this group's radar. We're gonna break down and try and figure out, some of that is revenue replacement money, which means we can do one thing with that, and then the rest of it has to be sort of geared up and spent on things that in DPW, water type of things are a big part of that. There's also Plymouth County money that, was it 2 million something?
Something like
Something
that,
right,
yeah.
a little over $2 million that is allotted to the town of Abington. It's being held by Plymouth County for us, and we will work with them like we did with the CARES Act money and reach out to them when we have an expenditure. They'll track it and they'll take care of the monitoring of it. What had happened is because they were a functioning county, that they were actually eligible for ARPA money. So when they got it, they said, okay, well, we're gonna distribute it amongst the towns within our county, which is
Nice.
good thing they did that, because it would have been an uprising had they not. So right now, we haven't done anything with it, and it's very preliminary. Sonia's had some meetings with them, I've had some discussions with them. We did talk, I think I talked with this group again, and with Capital and with the Selectmen also, that we may earmark, and we want to earmark, or we talked about earmarking at least $750,000 of it right now for the water department, for our share of working on some temporary fixes for the PFAS issue which mostly affects Rockland and doesn't actually affect Gray.
I've already heard about it.
That being said, we also do know that there's some money coming down from the state at this point. We've gotten some indications that there's some grant money that they've been getting, and there's some other money. So we're just making sure that we're using the right money in the right place. So there really isn't any decisions or discussions other than the possible 750 for the, that money that's specifically at Plymouth County. So we're going to have, obviously, this committee will have some discussions on that when we get further into the budget talks. I do want to tell you, though, we talked over last year, and some of the things we have received some earmarks from the governor, or from the governor's last budget, thanks to Senator Keenan and Representative Sullivan. We did get an extra $100,000 that we just got for roads. So John Stone is going to grab something off his list that thinks he can fit into that, and we'll do a nice section of road.
Excuse me, Scott, did you say 1,000?
I said 100,000.
100,000.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Thousand.
You'll get $1,000.
1,000 wouldn't go
Well,
very
We
far.
would take it if we could.
We can do
completely.
it. We can do a draft.
You guys are speaking awfully quiet and having a very difficult time hearing me.
So we also, we received an earmark also for $25,000 to use towards, for our Affordable Housing Trust to hire a consultant to help us, specifically looking at some senior housing, and then we were earmarking for this property that's at the end of Glenowitz across from the Housing Authority, and whether we can do something in conjunction with the Housing Authority to put up some much needed senior housing over there. Then we additionally got two more grants. One for a capital plan, which I think I told this committee about also with the Collins Center, that will eventually replace the capital planning committee for the most part, except for a couple of stewards of the plan. It's a great plan, it's robust. Looking forward to starting that project, but we just got that money. Then we got another $20,000 that's an IT grant that we can use towards enhancing and doing these things that I've been telling you about, that we're going to do for the website, and upgrade our website, and upgrade how we're getting information out to people. So that's, we're happy about all that. It's nice that, we've actually sort of added some hours and some time for Liz Shea to help us with that, and it's really paid off.
Excuse me, Scott, did we have an amount with the capital plan grant? I didn't.
The capital plan one was $25,000, and then another $20,000 for the website. The sewer, we talked briefly, in the sewer force main project is going really well, and that's about 50% complete. John wanted me to mention that. And some things that are coming up, some of the asks that I've from department heads, and it doesn't seem to be, it's a little difficult. I'm sure we'll have a couple of cruises that they'll be looking for this year. I think we did 3 last year, so maybe, but where we have the new chief in there, it's kind of, we're not really sure. He's got to do a full inventory of what his assets are there, and then we'll take a better look at that. So I don't really know what asks we'll get from him. Fire, I don't believe we have anything coming our way. I think we did a lot last year. John's got those engines up, and they're all looking good, and hopefully we're good for that. I've had some discussions, just some preliminary discussions with the veterans agent. He is swamped. It's a testimony to the fact that, he's doing such a good job, and then word got out that he was doing such a good job that
It's a good problem.
it's a good problem to have. What was happening, though, is prior to him being here, the veterans were going to other towns, because you can go to any town, apparently, and see any veteran officer, and they were going to other towns. But now that we have him here and he's full-time, that they're all coming back and getting the services from him, which is great. But it just means that he may need a bit of assistance. So we're going to get into that conversation with him. And then the DPW, I think they're still looking, I think they asked last year and probably the year before, is that they needed a couple, they would like to have a couple more guys on board. Other than that, I think that's all I have for you.
Couple of questions. So, you mentioned that we got the original 800,000. There's a, yeah, no, pension up to 800,000. Are those coming from that 2 point whatever million?
Nope, that's
So-
direct from the feds to us, was
The
800, and like, I want to say 830 or 840, close to 850.
And what
This
program
year's
is that?
payment. And then, excuse me?
Sorry, what program is that under?
That's
That's
ARPA.
ARPA. It's all ARPA.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're
okay.
getting some of
Different
it
parts of ARPA.
straight
Gotcha.
from the feds, and so our reporting will be with them. Then some of it's coming through the county, and our reporting will be through the county.
But it's
So it's
all-
all the
it's
same
all-
money with all
okay.
the same requirements.
Gotcha.
The nice, we've had discussions with the county, like Scott said. The county will be doing a lot of oversight. And so they'll be able to help us make sure that our projects are allowable.
Gotcha.
So for any of those projects that are a little more complicated, we're gonna run those through that program so that we can know at the end of the day, all these programs are allowable. We've done exactly what we needed to do. The ones that are a little more slam dunk, like the water programs, we're gonna use the money that came straight from the feds because there's no questions for them to ask. We don't need as much oversight to make sure that those programs are allowable. No.
And so, out of that first 830, how much have we spent, or is it just already spent?
We actually, I don't think we've actually spent any. I think we've allocated some, like I said, for some cruises. I
Yeah.
probably spent some on some of the website stuff prior to getting the grant, but very, very minimal. Like I said, we did plan 3 cruises. I don't think they've come in yet. And like the bucket truck, I don't know if we talked about a pickup truck or not, but that was really it. We were kind of waiting to see where everything else was going. We knew those were immediate needs. We didn't have any free cash last year, as you guys remember. So,
Yeah.
we, rather than fall behind the 8 ball on those things, we had to get to it. But we bought the street sweeper. So the street sweeper isn't in yet, but we had to buy that because we had to keep up with the MS4 permit that we.
Bucket trucks are like bars of gold right now.
That's the problem, yeah. Which is fine, I mean.
I'll tell them, we can get them, it's really hard to get them.
They're odd and they're, it's
New
like
ones,
everything else.
new ones.
Well, we're looking at, trying to get
Newish
something
ones,
newish.
newish.
Yeah. But we'll keep working on it, we'll get one.
ARPA is a 3-year program as well, so we have time to
So
decide
you
how we
basically
want
just
to-
read my mind, impressive. I was gonna say, is there a time frame and we can spend it? So we have 3 years to spend, close to 4 million?
It's not gonna be a problem.
Yeah. No, actually, I'm actually surprised we haven't already blown through the first one, because I know we put off a lot,
Well,
because we were uncertain.
yeah, we're careful, and like I said, there are gonna be conversations that this committee's gonna have, and obviously, once, that capital plan's put a little bit more together, there's gonna be asks, and there's gonna be things that we're gonna have to do, and we're gonna have to make the decision on what's better, just to pay for it, just to borrow it, hold on. One thing we can't do with the money is hold on to it, and we can't put it into stabilization, and we can't use it to pay down debt, right?
Right.
So.
It's just for acquiring new things.
Well, so to a certain point, snow and ice, because, well, probably not, but, so
Maybe.
there's a certain amount of it that we have to do a calculation on that's gonna be the revenue replacement money, and that's the money that's sort of.
You can use for
we
just
have-
about anything.
Yeah, we can do that for just about anything,
Yeah.
not paying back, not debt or whatever, but that's sort of revenue replacement, so yeah, if we wanted to use that for snow and ice or capital or something that didn't, the other stuff has to sort of fit in with, like, the water is easy because they said, if it's for water quality issues or getting water, so a lot of the DPW functions, police and fire stuff, you can make it work with that, and I
But
think
there are a
also-
lot of requirements on some of them.
Yeah, and that's why it's nice with the, like we said, we can use some of the stuff that we have for some of the easy, we know it automatically fits in the revenue replacement part. And then the things that we're not really sure about, we run through Plymouth County, they're gonna vet it, audit it, and we know that if they okay it, we're not gonna worry about the feds coming back to us a year from now and saying, yeah, no, that's not gonna work, it's the money back.
So even with all the restrictions, you're still confident that you'll find a way to use it all?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you know what, if we did nothing else but spend it on water, we don't have enough for what we're gonna deal with water over the next few years
Yeah.
anyway, so that would be worst case scenario, but the revenue replacement part isn't even, that's we haven't really had a good talk about it, but it's this year, it's next year, it's all 3 years of looking back and saying, what would the revenue have been had this not happened?
Yep.
So it's retro, or is it forward, or both?
I think it's both.
Retro?
I think it's retro to the point where right now, we're looking at what we would have gotten in the last fiscal year,
Yeah.
and then, but I'm not sure if it compounds, because if you look at the way you work in
I think
revenue,
it might.
it
I
would
think
make
they
sense.
assume like a 4%.
That's what I heard Tom
Yeah.
O'Brien say at one
Right.
point, but I don't,
We're still trying to get into
Yeah.
the county's portal. They have a calculator that
Oh,
they
nice.
think will be really helpful for us, so we plan to use that.
Mhm.
So we're still trying to get in so that we can access it and take a look at it and just get a good idea of what our revenue replacement option would be.
But in general, is the idea that you had anticipated this much revenue due to circumstances, we missed that, and we can use this money to get us back to where we were hoping to be? Is that kind of
Kind
roughly
of.
the idea?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's far more complicated than
Well,
that.
Well,
no,
that's
no,
the
it's
general
kind of
idea.
general, yeah, it
Yeah.
trues you up, and it gives us the ability, to, again, to, like, there's certain things that we didn't do, or purchase, or capital, or whatever,
Mhm.
that we couldn't do because we didn't have that revenue, and now we can say, all right, well, get the bucket truck, or,
Yeah.
you know, upgrade get another pickup truck. I saw, the DPW, one of the highway guys driving down in a pickup truck that looked like it was from 1979. So,
Those are valuable now, by the way.
and I know a guy who I want to sell it to.
If it's a diesel, I'll take it.
Everything that, you can't find anything now, so.
Now, you both mentioned the water. How much of this money would go towards the water issue?
We haven't decided yet. I mean, that's kind of going to be the conversation. And I think you'll have a really good conversation when we have Joe Lapointe in here. But like, right now, I think the last talk with him was it was probably $10 million over the next several years that had to be put into water infrastructure. There's problems with not just the PFAS, but just, I think it's one of the plants is just ancient, or it's old, and, there's rust problems in the tank up and underneath, and holding the pipes together, and so he has a plan, and he knows what has, and I've seen it, and I can get a copy to everybody, and you can get a copy, but over, the next several years, what their priorities are. There's a well that needs to be dug or rehab, so there was another well that they have to get online. But the immediate problem was temporary filtration for the two plants that are up and running, and getting the PFAS out of them.
What is that, sorry? PFAB?
It's the stuff that makes the water.
Forever chemicals, yeah.
Forever chemicals, that's it.
Yeah.
What'd you say, sorry?
Forever chemicals.
Forever chemicals?
PFAS. Yeah.
Okay.
And so,
And when we had Joe in last year, he was mentioning that they had changed the calculations for some of those that we have to adjust.
and the feds are coming down on this too, so the feds had a level that was an acceptable level up here, and we were down here. And then the state came and said, all right, well, we're gonna have our own acceptable level, and it's just below where you're coming in on one of our plants,
Yep.
not both of them. But now the feds are gonna drop their level also.
Yep.
So the fix for it is a filtration system, carbon filtration, whatever they gotta do. It's gonna be very expensive, do it on both. They gotta do it temporary to get it up and running, then they gotta build housing for it. And then the maintenance, the annual upkeep on it is very expensive too. So there is news that there is money coming down, and that's why we're kind of hesitant to say how much out of this that we're going to allocate towards it just yet. We had some preliminary talks about us allocating $750,000, which, if we have to spend it, we'll spend it. Rockland doing the same thing, and then there was still some money that would go to, come in, ratepayers would end up picking up some of it. And that would just be for the first initial temporary filtration system. And then they can start working on more permanent ones, which, once you got into the more permanent ones, then the numbers were, getting into the $4 or $5 million.
Wow.
And then the annual upkeep, and again, some of it, now we were hearing, like I said, right off the bat, there was $2 million coming down. Haven't seen it or got anything concrete yet, but as that money starts floating down, or the new, depending on Joe Biden's latest bill, infrastructure bill, and what's coming out of that, hopefully there's money earmarked for this too. They've recognized that it's a problem and they have to help with it, so.
In the end, that, just because I'm not familiar with the PFAS, but I'm gonna look it up, is that, in the end, that translates to cleaner water, is that what it is?
At the end of the day, yeah, better
Okay.
water. So
Okay.
these PFAS are these chemical like compounds, and I guess they were big in the firefighting foam that, everybody used to run through and right now. And it just gets in and it doesn't go away. And so then you drink the water
Mhm.
and it gets in your system.
Okay,
So they want to filter it out,
yeah.
which is a good plan.
Yeah, no, I mean, clean water is kind of one of those
Yeah.
essential services, right? The only other question I had was, can you elaborate more about the 25K for the capital planning? What was that? Only because I was on last year, so I was curious.
Yeah, so
What's
remember,
that
we
was?
had talked about it is, so what the Collins Center will do is they'll come in and they'll meet with every department head and meet with me. And they're gonna go around, work with us to look at all of the buildings, do an asset inventory basically of our larger capital items. And they'll help put together a long-term plan for us. It's gonna, you're gonna need replacement 5 years on this, you're gonna need replacement 10 years on this. Next year, your immediate things are this.
Mhm.
And it's a really good it's one of those plans though, the more you put into it, you really have to, I know towns that have done it and we're sort of lackluster about it, and they got a, lackluster plan, but there's some of them out there, and I'll share them with you guys, that they put together really good. Everybody was in sync on it, all the departments, all the department heads, the committees wanted this. The better roadmap that we have to work with, knowing what our capital is gonna be and what's coming down the road at us, obviously gives us a better idea what we can do this year, what we have to save for, what our borrowing is gonna be in the future. So anyways, the Collins Center has done a few of these, a few towns. I'll send you some of the examples. So that was a big, we get, it's community compact grant money. Every couple of years, we're eligible for a couple of projects. As a matter of fact, one of them was some forecasting that they did, when they did it back in 2016. I was actually hoping to do that one, but they said, no, you already did. So, like, oh, all right.
All right, thank you.
Can I just ask one question? Could you use the term, the funds may come down? What's the source when you say come down? The federal?
The federal, yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking, well, there's two sources that we do know, some are coming from the state, but I'm hoping and thinking that some should be coming also from the federal government. Problem is it takes that much longer, for that to get down, but, where this is a big problem, hopefully they're gonna start throwing money at it. We have to start planning regardless. So there is a plan in process. Joe's on it, and if we can't wait, and use any of the grant money that's available to us or that's coming, then we're gonna start using the ARPA money for it. And it's a perfect place to spend it, because otherwise we'd be borrowing. Because it's something that absolutely has to be done.
So right now, our only source is the ARPA money. Like, because we can't guarantee, we can't rely on the federal or state government right now. I just because you said when money comes down, I just wasn't sure
Yep.
what that.
Yeah, and we're just hoping more and more comes, but if it doesn't, then we're either using this money or probably a combination of this money, borrowing, and rates going up.
Thank you.
Before we let you scoot, I'm
Food trucks are gonna leave.
gonna see if Katie has any questions. Katie's been quiet. Just gonna make sure she's good.
I'm still here, no questions.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Katie.
Matt, I do have one last question, just because I'm a little sassy every year.
Yes.
How many millions of dollars currently this year have we made on the marijuana?
How many millions?
Millions. Because I don't know if you guys remember, that was stated at the town meeting, we would be making millions of dollars this year. So I just want to know roughly where we're at.
So, none that I'm aware of. However,
Interesting.
I will be reaching out. Our payment, so we have several HCA agreements, like host community agreements with marijuana companies.
Yeah.
And the one that's actually up and running, which is Bud's, their agreement allows for a single payment at 12 months after their operation. So that will be sometime in May or June. So we will see something this fiscal year from Bud's, but won't be in millions.
But was that
Not
part of
really
the extra 3 or 5 total?
So that
Uh,
was the, that
Okay,
was
so the
That's
first
the
one,
3%.
I'm just, sorry,
sure. So out of the other ones,
Yeah.
they haven't opened yet.
all right.
But the HCA's are gonna be different on those ones that I've signed. They require, when I did those ones, I put in for quarterly payments, so we will likely see some revenue if one of them or 2 of them opens up. But to date, so far, just Bud's.
Just going on a
Okay.
specific statement.
yeah.
I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And how does that work? Is it like a certain percentage on their
3% of their
sales
gross.
3%.
of gross?
Yeah, and that's the statement.
And then there's a couple.
And that goes right to the town?
Yes.
that's what
And
goes-
there's no kickback up to the state?
Oh, they pay a lot to the state, but
Yeah.
they.
Oh,
they pay-
separately,
They pay a
separately.
different amount.
I getcha, yeah.
Do we have any idea how they're, like, do they have to report anything to the state on a quarterly or?
They
biannual
they
basis?
report to the state a lot. I'm not sure, like, on the financials, but I imagine every penny, every bud, every little thing they do is super accounted for. And actually, I've been meaning to reach out to them to see if I can get some sort of a mid-year report from them, because I need it, obviously.
Yeah.
For the
See
budget.
when-
Ballpark.
See when the
Yeah.
millions are gonna start rolling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're already there, we just don't know it.
Right.
What,
But Greg, you probably know this already.
Yes.
Because you're a connoisseur, but.
I'm a super connoisseur.
But I did hear that I think it was the Mass Cannabis Association ranked Bud's as the #1 cannabis shop in the state.
Oh, look at that.
Impressive.
well, they have 2 locations. I
So maybe it
believe.
will be millions.
But I do take a look by that parking lot
One day.
whenever I drive by, and hope to see a lot of cars.
It's
there.
usually pretty busy
Yeah,
when I
I'm
drive
like,
by.
I'm happy to
So
see that parking lot.
My only
full.
point was, in order to make
It's
a
almost
million,
always
How
correct.
much, yeah, how much,
In order to
how
make
much
it
do they
there.
have to do to get 3%?
lot. Like, to do the numbers on 3%, so that was just my pushback on that.
Yep.
Was just statistically, you have to sell a lot. And I know Bud's is a place of business, but it doesn't seem like it's that large.
You don't think they're gonna do 30 million?
To do 30, maybe. I don't know, it was from 0 to 30 million in the first year, it's pretty good.
Was that $1 million annually?
I'm just going on the statement. Obviously, I don't believe somebody would have stood up and
I
said, we
don't-
will make millions on a business at some point in
I don't believe that they were
time.
making a very specific.
It
this
was
is-
not an
this is
official
a-
statement from
yeah.
my office or the finance office.
Correct.
It's kind of like Stephen Wright when he used to
It
do
does not
we're open
represent the
24 hours
beliefs
a
of my
day.
office or the
Not in a
finance
row.
It's like at some point I will lose my hair.
over like 30
Yeah.
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 $1 million over 10 years.
Yeah. It was one of the selling features to have another tree.
So. Anything else?
I was gonna keep pointing it out.
That's all I got.
I told you.
All right.
Is there a liaison for Bud's that we
Is
can?
there, we know that.
On-site meeting.
Examples.
I'd love to be the liaison for the selectmen. That's what I'd like.
You are.
Sign it up.
As you are the vice chair this year, you are
No.
the secondary liaison for the selectmen.
No.
So that walks us right into our liaison
Perfect.
assignments.
You probably don't need us at this
Scott.
point.
Thank you both so much for your
Thank you,
time.
guys.
Bravo.
Good seeing everybody.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get you those reports right now from the auditor as well. I'm thinking
Okay, all right,
you can
thank
take a
you.
couple home with you. I got plenty of copies.
Much
Anyone else like
appreciated.
750?
It's really good reading.
Yeah.
All
Have a
right,
good night.
so
Thanks.
thank you. Moving to our liaison assignments. Greg's comment brings up our one standing sort of liaison is that the chair and the vice chair are the primary and secondary liaisons to the Board of Selectmen / town manager. So that one is already assigned to myself and to Greg. The other departments, we have a list of 18 departments additional departments that we're assigning liaisons for, primary and secondary. There are 9 of us, so it works out to ballpark of two primary, 2 secondary for each person. We don't always go exactly to the numbers, but just going through what what departments people are most interested in, what people want to assign to the people that aren't here, because no one's interested in them. And I joke, but just running through quickly the list, the Abington CAM, the Accountants, Assessors, and Treasurer's Office, the Board of Health, the Building Department, Council on Aging, DPW, Fire, Golf, IT, Library, the Planning Board, and we added that somewhat recently because they usually have a lot of things that come up for town meeting that we need to know about. Police, schools, South Shore VOTEC, the town clerk, veterans, water, and the capital committee. Joe?
I'll take, if no one else wants it, I'll take stick with the fire as the primary and golf as primary, and then wherever else you want me for a secondary.
Does anybody have objections there to Joe taking fire and golf?
Oh, golf.
They are a fun group, very nice guys.
They are.
I won't object.
I am going
What's that?
So I won't
to
object.
call on Katie to see what she wants, since we've got her remotely, and I don't want to have her be drowned out by the voices in the room.
I'll do Board of Health, and I don't really have any other preferences.
All right.
Are those still separate? Is BOH and building inspector, aren't those like inspectional services now or something like that?
So that actually would have been a good question for Scott while he was here. Is he still hanging around over there?
I have a very loud voice.
There he is.
Scott,
Scott.
one quick minute.
Drew, I'll let you ask that one.
So, Board of Health and Building Inspector, are those separate departments now, or is that all like
It's
inspection?
in the inspectional services department.
So that's one merge.
Yep.
Okay.
One big happy family down there now.
So Katie, do you still want that? With it throwing in inspectional services?
Yes, please.
All
Yeah,
right.
that's fine.
That was it, thank you.
Run.
Can I do the library?
Russ is asking for library. Any objections?
You gotta love a guy that comes to the library.
I love the library. Great department.
She's a sweetheart.
All right, so I'm just gonna start running through. Any, Drew or Paul, any
You
particular?
wanted IT, right?
Yeah, I'll go IT.
Yeah, I already have you down as IT. Paul.
Okay.
I want second on golf. I'll be trying to knock Joe out for the record every other week.
Is the school building committee still functioning?
No, I actually, on my list, the one that I emailed out, I should have taken that off.
Okay.
I took it off on the newest version of that, but because my printer was not working, that you don't have that version of it, so sorry about that. Any preference? All right, so going down, Abington CAM. Any,
Where's this list?
We sent by email.
I had sent it out in email, I'm just going through my now
I thought everybody was looking
for
at it.
everyone at home, handwritten, because of
Thanks.
broken printer.
It's Johnstone.
Abington CAM is not Johnstone.
No, what is Johnstone? Sorry.
DPW.
Yeah, do that.
You want DPW, yeah.
Make sure you get his bucket truck.
All right, Abington CAM. No volunteers, I'm gonna give them
Oh,
to.
didn't Barbara have some
Oh,
that she wanted to?
actually, what were
I think it was
Barbara's?
Barbara wanted
police.
police.
I forget what the other one was.
It's police, and then any other department you need me to cover. So Abington CAM it is.
Works out perfect.
And we do have Chris to assign things to as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know what, I will take secondary on Abington CAM.
The schools, does anybody have a preference for the schools? I'll take the schools.
All right. You familiar with the school department?
A little bit.
So South Shore will check too.
We usually do them separately, so
I'll do it, I'll do that.
you'll take South Shore?
Yeah, for sure. And I keep pushing them to get Hingham in this conglomerate, whatever they call it.
Well, if you look at the towns like Hingham, like Situate and Cohasset that are part of it, they send like 3 kids a year, so,
I agree, they're just not involved in it, but they do use it.
yeah.
So if they want to be known as the South Shore, pony up the money for the book school.
Fair enough.
It's a rich town.
All right, accountant, assessor, treasurer.
I'll take that up.
Russ.
I'm fine taking planning. I know we've
Okay.
got that yet, but.
Yep, no, that's good. We don't have to go in order.
Okay.
I'll back up for anything that needs to be.
Yep.
I can take town clerk too.
Okay, that sounds good. Leanne is great, so good department to liaise with. I am actually gonna take veterans myself. Working with Adam a lot, so. So we've got council on aging, police, water, and the capital.
Police is Barbara.
already Barbara, right?
Oh, yeah, sorry. For primaries.
So do we have to back up 2 each?
So we had 2, approximately, we don't,
I'll do
So
veterans on the backup and golf.
yep.
I think I have 2 of the other things.
So council on aging, water, and capital. Chris can take a couple of those. Give him council on aging. Suzanne, who's excellent. And then water.
I can back up water if you want.
Yep, that sounds good. Does anybody specifically want the capital,
For primary or?
primary or secondary? It's kind of being on the committee, if you remember.
What is it?
Sounds like
What is
the
it again? The
The
capital?
cap planning
I
committee.
think,
Yeah.
you know what's weird?
We need great.
Again, maybe Scott just had an issue with me, but I don't think
Probably.
I don't think he wants people out there for me.
Yeah, I think he wants.
I'm just giving
it
you my-
definitely seems like he wants to pull that back.
Yes.
Yeah, because I.
Yeah, and it's super confusing for the record, just with me being on it, because I ask very much the same sort of questions-ish
Yep.
in both places. You don't have to write any of this down. So it's,
But you can
you
write
don't have to show my vulnerabilities. But yeah, it's,
I'll,
just talk to Scott about it, because
Yeah.
he seemed to be a little like, eh.
yeah.
Well,
It
'cause
could have just been me, maybe he was looking for somebody else.
No, I had emailed
We
him.
can also ask Paul if he knows anyone on the capital planning committee familiar with
anybody.
fathered anyone on the committee. So,
Yeah, because I had emailed Scott about it, and he said that it would be coming back, but different.
Yeah,
And that's why I was kind of asking about.
so you know what, for
that
now,
capital.
it's
for
just a
now,
nice way of saying he didn't want us on.
for now, I'll.
It was
I'll
his
take
idea.
that one until we have a better idea.
Sure.
I think he found out quickly. He was like, kept doing
All
this.
right. So now secondaries, accountant, assessor, treasurer.
You can fill me in for 2, wherever you want.
I'll put Joe in there since he spoke.
Plays with a petri dish.
Board of Health and Inspectional. I will throw Barbara on there.
Oh, it's not just me.
Council on Aging.
I'll do that.
Back up on DPW.
DPW, Drew. All right. Fire. Joe is the primary there. I can take backup on that.
What?
Fire. Work with John a lot, so. Golf, we've already got Greg. IT, I already put myself down as the backup there for Paul. Library. I will give that to Chris. Katie, just speak up if there's anything that floats your boat here. Planning.
I'll do planning.
Police.
I'll do police.
Joe. Schools and South Shore VOTEC. Katie, you want either of those? Calling you out.
Happy to take either of them.
All right, I'm
Throw my name down.
giving both to you as backup.
So what was that?
Schools and South Shore.
Just gonna learn how to weld.
As Greg points out, it's not the entire South Shore. It's just a specific portion of the South Shore,
I'm gonna start making signs.
portion that includes us.
Hang 'em.
So clerk, the town clerk and the capital. Actually, I think we'll go with no backup on capital. I'll figure that one out. So just, who wants to back up the town clerk?
I can do that.
Russ. All right.
Who's the primary on water?
Primary on water is Chris,
And then Abington Cam?
Barbara.
And who's the primary? Is that Barbara primary?
Barbara's primary backup is me.
Oh, okay.
For that one.
And who's back up on vets?
Greg.
Thank you.
Do you need any of it here?
I can take that.
Yeah, in case you didn't. All right, that takes us through our new business portion of our agenda,
And
and
can I
it's
just
only
ask,
8:30.
as a new member, like, what's the role of the liaison, like primary for these
So
departments?
the role of the liaison, you essentially, you introduce yourself to the department head, either reaching out, email, text, call, whatever. And then you make yourself available to them if they have any financial concerns. You can check in with them throughout the year, especially in the budgeting process time. You probably want to check in with them before they come to meet with us and present their proposed budget, to make sure that the kind of stuff that we're expecting from them, they understand, and if they have stuff that they're like going to be presenting to us, that we have the information. Like one of the things that we definitely work with them on is, do you have any capital items for this year? If so, do you have any warrant articles? Like the DPW will frequently have warrant articles. Water or sewer department will often, and then if they have anything bigger going on, or if they want us to take a tour of the department or something like that. Like we did a lot with the fire department last year for obvious reasons, touring the fire stations and seeing what the state of things are before making our recommendations for the articles that were up related to them, things like that. But just being available for the department head and kind of checking in and making sure that they're all set with what's going on financially.
Okay.
There are definitely times where things will come up during the year. The library a few years back had to replace the HVAC system unexpectedly, and so they had to come to us for a reserve fund transfer. So that would be a case where they could reach out, either like they'll talk to Scott, but they could reach out to their liaison and kind of walk things through and say, hey,
Okay.
this is what's going on. So
Yeah, and I'm not sure if anyone else has different experiences, but I've noticed that the whole process runs very smooth. It's like the same thing every year, so like I know I'm on the list, but I haven't really had to reach out and do anything. There was a couple times we wanted Chief Nuttall to come back in, there was no contact, but other than that, I mean, I'm not sure if anyone has different experiences. Other groups more interactive.
different departments, you'll go a year without really talking to them at all. You'll introduce, and they won't need anything.
Yeah, it's a pretty smooth process.
Some of them are more communicative.
Okay.
So, and it really a lot of it depends on what's going on at the time. So,
And if you're a second, you follow the lead of the primary.
yep. And you're there in case the primary has problems or is unavailable or quits.
Or you show up as much as you want to golf. If you're the second.
Golf is not actually part of the liaison. Not that it's discouraged.
Great relationship building.
Yes. And I will remind Greg to take the state ethics training.
I do well on that.
So, all right. So that does take us through the new business, which brings us to our standing items, the first of which is liaison reports. Anybody with any liaison reports? I'm guessing no. It's not usually a lot at this time of year, so. Correspondence. Deb, did we have an email?
I'm on vacation.
Okay,
I have
so
not even
Deb has
come
not
into
checked
this
the mail,
building.
which is fine by
Sorry.
us. Usually the mail is a copy of the Beacon.
Do we still get that?
I think these guys are both
I
upset
don't know,
that we
so,
didn't do that, though.
yeah.
That we
So
didn't get a
I
copy
did-
of the Beacon.
So I did send out an email with something that Scott brought to my attention that I wanted to bring up. The Association of Town Finance Committees is having its yearly annual meeting, and they're doing it remotely and over 3 weeks. The first of which is tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, a week from Thursday, and then November 4th. 7 to 8:15. If anyone wants to tune in, the link is in the email that I sent out to
Can we
all of you.
register on our own?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Next, I was reading the agenda, it sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, there's
especially
definitely
where-
some
yeah,
interesting stuff. So, definitely could, especially newer people on it, could be very helpful to kind of walk through some of the stuff that they're focusing on this year. So. Minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes. We have minutes from the July 21st meeting. Let's see, 1, 2,
Yeah, there's only
4. We have 4 people, so we cannot vote on those minutes again. So we will put off voting on the July 21st minutes. The September 8th meeting minutes, we have 4 people. So we cannot vote on any of the minutes tonight.
And I will take off the guests, the next one, so they won't even be on the
And-
minutes for review.
Yes, we will review the minutes again to see if we have any feedback on them. Deb will send out meeting minutes for tonight's meeting that we'll review before our next meeting. Which brings me to the question of next meeting. I was looking at the calendar, I think November 10th, it's Wednesday in 3 weeks. Looks like a good date for our next meeting. So, unless there are any overwhelmingly loud objections right now, we will plan on November 10th for our next meeting.
Meeting's always 7 o'clock?
Always 7, unless otherwise specified. 7 o'clock, usually Wednesdays, usually here in the Cotter room, and we do have the link so that people can join online, like Katie is doing tonight, modeling for everyone how to do that. Thank you, Katie. That, there's nothing left on our agenda. Are there any motions?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Motion to adjourn and a second. Any discussion? Without any, all those in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. We are adjourned. Thank you all.